The billionaire froze beside the diner window when he saw the old man sitting alone at table 7, gripping a photograph with both trembling hands. The photograph showed a little girl, and on the back in black ink were 6 words that made his stomach drop. "Please find her before it's too late." Outside, rain hammered the streets of Cleveland, Ohio. Inside the Bluebird Diner, coffee steamed beneath yellow lights while a waitress wiped the same counter twice. Ethan Caldwell, a self-made billionaire who had built Caldwell Logistics from one delivery van into a nationwide transportation company, stood motionless near the entrance. Nobody in the diner recognized him. That was exactly how Ethan preferred it. He had come in after a late meeting, still wearing a charcoal coat, intending to eat breakfast before driving home. But the photograph changed everything. The old man looked exhausted. His coat was soaked. One hand covered the photograph while the other shook around a coffee cup. Ethan approached slowly. "Excuse me," he said. "Are you waiting for someone?" The old man looked up. His eyes were red. "Someone who stopped waiting for me 22 years ago." Ethan pulled out the chair across from him. "What happened?" The man hesitated, then slid the photograph across the table. The little girl had dark curls, a missing front tooth, and a silver heart necklace. Ethan stared at the necklace. His face changed. "That necklace," he whispered. The old man leaned forward. "You know it?" Ethan did. Years earlier, his younger sister Claire had disappeared after their father died. She had been 17. The family searched for months, but Claire was eventually declared dead after investigators found her abandoned car near Lake Erie. Ethan had never accepted it. The old man swallowed hard. "The girl in this picture is Claire." Silence fell between them. Ethan's fingers tightened around the photograph. "That's impossible." "No," the man said. "What's impossible is what happened after she disappeared." Before Ethan could answer, the diner door opened. A tall man in an expensive navy suit entered carrying a black umbrella. Ethan recognized him immediately. Victor Hade, Caldwell Logistics Chief Financial Officer. Victor smiled when he saw Ethan, but the smile vanished when he noticed the photograph. "You shouldn't be here," Victor said quietly. The old man looked frightened. Ethan stood. "Why?" Victor glanced toward the waitress, then lowered his voice. "Because that man has been asking questions about Claire for years. Questions that could get people hurt." Ethan's expression hardened. "What do you know about my sister?" Victor said nothing. Then the old man suddenly grabbed Ethan's sleeve. "Don't trust him." Victor stepped closer. "Ethan, listen carefully. Your sister is dead." The old man shook his head. "She isn't." Victor's eyes flashed with anger. "She died 22 years ago." The old man reached inside his coat and pulled out a second photograph. This one was newer. Ethan stared at it. Claire stood beside a brick building, older now, holding the same silver heart necklace. On the back was a handwritten address. Ethan read it twice. Then he looked toward Victor. Victor had gone completely pale. "You recognize that place?" Ethan said. Victor slowly backed toward the door. And that was when Ethan noticed something terrifying. The photograph had been taken only 3 days earlier. For 22 years, Ethan had carried the unanswered question. Why would Claire vanish without contacting anyone who loved her? Now the question had a face. He looked again at the old man. "Who are you?" The man's jaw tightened. "My name is Samuel Reed. Claire trusted me once. Then she disappeared, and powerful people made sure nobody searched in the right places." Victor laughed nervously. "This is absurd." Samuel turned toward him, then explained the payments. Victor stopped breathing. Ethan noticed the waitress watching from behind the counter. She looked terrified. "What payments?" Ethan asked. Victor said nothing. Samuel pulled a folded bank statement from his coat and placed it beside the photographs. Ethan scanned the page. Every month, for 17 years, money had moved from an account controlled by Caldwell Logistics into a private trust. The beneficiary name was Claire Caldwell. Ethan looked up slowly. That account was closed before Claire disappeared. Samuel nodded. "Exactly." Victor suddenly reached for the papers. Ethan caught his wrist. "Don't." For the first time, the billionaire's calm expression disappeared. Victor stared at him. "You have no idea what you're opening." Ethan released him. "Then start talking." Victor looked toward the door. Two men were standing outside beneath the diner's awning. They were not waiting for coffee. The lights went out. In the darkness, a woman's voice came through the diner's back room. Ethan, he knew that voice. It was the voice he had spent 22 years believing he would never hear again. The voice came again, softer this time. Ethan, please. He stopped breathing. Samuel stood beside him, frozen. Victor stared toward the dark hallway, as if he had just seen a ghost. Ethan moved first. He crossed the diner carefully, using the faint glow from the emergency sign above the kitchen door. A narrow hallway led toward the back entrance. Claire, he called. A figure stepped from the shadows. She was older, thinner, and her dark hair was streaked with gray, but the silver heart necklace rested against her coat. Ethan's knees nearly gave way. Claire covered her mouth. For several seconds, neither sibling moved. Then Ethan crossed the space between them and pulled her into his arms. She held him tightly. No explanation was needed. 22 years of grief broke open in a single embrace. I thought you were dead, Ethan whispered. Claire closed her eyes. Everyone was supposed to think that. Behind them, Victor suddenly ran. Samuel shouted, "Stop him!" Ethan turned, but Claire grabbed his arm. Let him go. Why? Because he's not the one who matters. A sharp crash came from the front of the diner. The two men outside had entered. Samuel pushed the tables together, blocking the hallway. Back door, he said. Ethan guided Claire toward the kitchen. But Claire shook her head. No, this ends tonight. She pulled a small flash drive from her pocket. This contains everything. What everything? The records your company never knew existed. Payments. Shell companies. Names. Dates. People who helped Victor hide what happened. Ethan stared at the drive. Claire continued. Victor wasn't working alone. The diner suddenly filled with headlights. Several black SUVs stopped outside. Ethan looked through the window. Men in suits stepped out. Claire whispered, "They found us." Samuel locked the front door. Then they'd better learn something. Ethan reached into his coat for his phone, but Claire stopped him. Calling the police won't be enough. Why? Because one of them is already on Victor's payroll. The front door shook. Once. Twice. Then the glass cracked. Ethan looked at Claire. For the first time that night, fear crossed his face. Not fear for himself, fear that 22 years of waiting might end with losing her again. He took her hand. Stay behind me. Claire squeezed his fingers. No, this time, the family stands together. The door burst open. A man stepped inside. He was wearing a Cleveland police jacket. Everybody stay where they are. Ethan recognized him. Detective Mark Ellison. The same detective who had led the original investigation into Claire's disappearance. Ellison looked directly at Claire. His face went white. You're alive. Claire stared back. You knew. Ellison lowered his weapon. I knew enough to be afraid. Victor entered behind him, breathing hard. You should have stayed hidden, Claire. Ethan stepped forward. You're finished. Victor smiled. Not yet. He raised a folder. Before anyone arrests anyone, Ethan should know who paid for his company's first warehouse. Ethan's expression tightened. Victor opened the folder. His father's signature appeared on the first page. Claire looked at Ethan. Your father knew. Ethan shook his head. My father died believing you were dead. Claire's eyes filled with tears. He believed that because Victor showed him evidence. Victor smiled. Evidence that was fabricated. Silence returned. Then Samuel placed the flash drive on the counter. That's why the drive matters. Victor lunged for it. Ethan moved faster. The billionaire caught Victor by the collar and pinned him against the wall. You took my sister. Victor struggled. No, your father did. Ethan froze. Victor whispered, and Claire knows why. Everyone turned toward her. Claire looked down at the floor. My disappearance began the night your father discovered what Victor was doing. Ethan stared at her. What was he doing? Claire finally looked up, selling the company from underneath him. The room fell silent. Then Claire added the truth that changed everything. And the buyer was never a stranger. She looked directly at Ethan. It was the man who raised you. Ethan's face went blank. Outside, police sirens approached. But inside the Bluebird Diner, the billionaire realized the greatest betrayal of his life had not come from a stranger. It had come from his own family. Months later, investigators uncovered the scheme. Victor was convicted of fraud, kidnapping conspiracy, and obstruction. Detective Ellison testified against him. Ethan refused revenge. Instead, he created a foundation in Claire's name for families searching for missing relatives. On a Sunday morning, Ethan, Claire, and Samuel returned to the Bluebird Diner. Claire placed the necklace beside Ethan's coffee. For the first time in 22 years, nobody was missing. Ethan reached across the table and held his sister's hand. Outside, sunlight filled the street. Some fortunes were measured in billions. This one was measured in one family coming home.